Slovakia Chronicles, a podcast of information, news and much more of our beloved Slovakia. By Andrea Paolo Mazzucchetti. It's me! Let's start. Hello everyone, welcome to the 24th episode of the Slovakia Chronicles Podcast. Happy Saint Mikulas, my dear friends. What gift did you receive for this celebration? It seems that Slovakia received a new lockdown. Yay! In fact, the COVID-19 pandemic is rapidly evolving toward a significant deterioration, especially in Bratislava that registered alarming numbers together with an epidemic curve growth rate of 7% per day. These numbers are scaring the local authorities, who felt the need to inform the population regarding the alarming situation. In fact, so far, since the start of the second wave of the pandemic, Bratislava has been doing very well compared to the other cities. The mass tests in November also confirm a calm trend of the epidemic from a health point of view. But now the situation has changed and is deteriorating even in Bratislava, with an increase of numbers of new infections and also of hospitalized people. So definitely not good period for all of us living in Slovakia, even if the same situation is almost everywhere unfortunately. But let's see what are the new measures put in place from yesterday, because they are not as worse as we can imagine. During a press conference on the previous Thursday, some members of the government explained the new restriction that will be put in place starting from 21 of December. All shops in Slovakia will remain closed except for groceries, drugstore and pharmacies, and the schools' holidays will begin on 21 of December. The lockdown should be valid for at least 3 weeks for all the nation territory. Regions that will have a bad situation in the new year should prepare to spend a few more weeks in quarantine. If the situation in the hospital returns under control, then the closure will be gradually eliminated, based on the incidence of the individual district. Gradually, it will then be possible to open the interiors of the restaurant, with about half of the capacity. But even if the shop closes, people will be able to keep moving and the ski slopes remain open. Ski resorts, hotels and other activities in mountain resorts will remain open, but under stricter conditions. From December 14, visitors to ski resorts will need to submit a negative test not older than 72 hours. Churches, cinemas and fitness centers will be able to continue to operate under current conditions, in compliance with the established measures. Hairdresser and other personal service will be defined in the decree that is expected to come the next week. The closures, however, will begin as early as 11 December with the ban on using the outdoor terrace of bars and restaurants. From 29 of December instead, companies with more than 500 employees will have to carry out regular antigen tests on their workers. From the 7th of September, there are also some adjustments regarding border controls. For all persons over the age of 7 who regularly cross the border, they are obliged to demonstrate upon arrival in the territory of Slovak Republic that they are negative for COVID-19, using an antigen test certificate or a PCR test no older than 14 days. The obligation applies to those who travel in Slovakia or neighbor countries regularly for reasons of work, study, health or urgent care of a close person. A novelty is also the fact that the antigen tests, so-called rapid swabs, performed abroad in the territory of the European Union will also be recognized as valid for commuters. Alternatively, you can present a medical certificate attesting the overcoming of the COVID-19 disease, a PCR test carried out abroad, register in advance on the corona.gov.sk to take the test in Slovakia and remain in solitary confinement once you enter in Slovakia, until a negative test result is delivered. A list of places to take a free antigen test in the main district of the country is available on the web page of the Slovak Ministry of Health. For those who cannot prove that they are commuters, the PCR test must be not older than 72 hours, even if you only stay in the country for a few hours. At the moment, the only countries that are included in the list of less risky are Australia, China, Finland, Iceland, Ireland, Japan, South Korea, Norway, New Zealand, Singapore, and Taiwan. When returning in Slovakia from the state of the European Union or European Economic Areas, there are two options. Remain in domestic isolation with cohabitating family members and register on the website corona.gov.sk. Carry out the COVID-19 test no older than the 5th days or, if there are no symptoms of the disease, conclude home isolation after 10 days without testing. Show upon arrival to the territory of the Slovak Republic a certificate with a negative test of the PCR test not older than 72 hours performed in laboratories outside the Slovak territories. But with all this restriction, I can say that the majority of us is still lucky in comparison, for example, to the Slovakia homeless who are facing more difficult winter than usual as the coronavirus crisis continues. Existing COVID measures have already brought extra hardship for people living on the street this year. Quarantines and lockdowns have meant fever donation for passers-by, and service provided by organizations helping them have been limited, leaving some struggling to get money for shelter or food. Homeless people have also been among the most vulnerable groups in the pandemic, struggling to self-isolate if they fear they are infected with the coronavirus, while their often already weakened health has left them particularly at risk for COVID. While no exact data on the number of homeless people in Slovakia exist, the Statistics Office estimates there are roughly 23,000 across the country, with 4,000 in Bratislava alone. But since the beginning of the pandemic, it has registered a significant increase in overnight stays, with over 2,300 more people this year than in 2019. One of the worst effects the pandemic has had on the homeless community is that it has limited the service provided by groups like Vegus, The Pole, and Proti Prudu. At Christmas, which is often an emotional time for those on the street who cannot spend it with their family, volunteers usually distribute cakes and pies among the homeless. But this year, that will not be possible due to the pandemic measures. Proti Prudu, Vegus, and The Pole are trying to raise money to keep up their services and support homeless people. Despite the prospect of a grim winter for people living on the streets, it seems the public has not forgotten their plight. For example, every year, Vegus organizes a night outside, during which people come to sleep in a square in Bratislava to show solidarity with the homeless. Although it was not possible to do this physically this year because of the coronavirus measures, it took place online instead with participants across the country, sleeping in their own gardens or balconies, and posting photos, videos, and live streams on social media. Almost 300 people slept outside, many more than organized had expected. Unfortunately, there are also other bad news for Slovakia besides the pandemic, and they are all related to the society mentality. In fact, even though migrants in Slovakia have somewhat bigger support in some spheres, existing integration policy for their integration to the society is unfavorable, and incoming citizens from third countries still face many problems. This stems from the Migrant Integration Policy Index, a study of the integration of foreigners from around the world, which compares integration policy in 52 countries. Slovakia must still intensively invest in policy related to quality of opportunity in practice, as they are still below average out of evaluated countries, according to the last report. The country improved in the integration politics category by 2 points between the years 2014 and 2019, and scored 39 points on a scale of 100 points. The average is 50 points. The current setting of Slovak integration policy encourages the public not to see migrants as potential cohabitants, but as foreigners. In the top 10 countries, immigrants are treated as equal neighbors and potential citizens. Restrictive policies, like in Slovakia, strengthen fear and distance between countries. Most people consider migrants as a threat. Migrants in Slovakia face many barriers in several spheres, especially in the labor market, education, political participation, and also in attitude towards state citizenship. Not only Slovakia should improve its openness to migrants, but also to education of Roma by preparing children for compulsory schooling, and to develop an action plan for LGBT people, in order to protect them against discrimination, hate crimes, and hate speech. This stems from a recent report of the European Commission Against Racism and Intolerance, ECRI, of the Council of Europe. Since the adoption of ECRI last report in 2014, Slovakia has made progress in certain areas. There has been a significant increase in the budget of the National Center for Human Rights, an action plan against racism was adopted, and penalties for hate speech have been imposed on some politicians and media. The report from ECRI contains 15 recommendations to the Slovak authorities. 2 of them should be addressed as a matter of priority: the development of an action plan for LGBT people and ensuring the Roma children have access to the education that prepare them adequately to attend primary school. It also recommends measures to strengthen the independence of Slovak National Center of Human Rights and of the discrimination of Roma women in obstetrics department at hospital, and establish an independent committee of inquiry to investigate the past practice of sterilizing Roma women without free and informed consent, and proposing a compensation scheme. So, not that much good news this week, but we are still 2 weeks to Christmas. So let's survive and be ready to celebrate, in moderation of course. Thank you for being part of the Slovakia Chronicle family, and stay safe.